Looks good. It doesn't happen by accident for sure. And it's a lot of trial and error, a lot of, hard knocks and all that. So for people out there, maybe just starting out, we always encourage folks, don't give up. You got to start somewhere. But you work up to this level and, and lighting placement has a lot to do with it. And and I will share a little secret though. I'm only using 2 lights. So you don't necessarily need a whole complicated setup. You just need to be able to use the tools you have the best way possible, actually.
Tips from Marty, folks. Don't take them for granted. All right, you ready to start the show?
Yep.
Here we go. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Paul Richards here with PTZOptics, and I'm super excited to have Marty McFadden back on for Facebook this time.
Yes. Hi, Paul. How are you?
Good. We had a super engaging conversation on Friday on YouTube Live where we were broadcasting in 1080p as we always do, and we decided, we wanted to give some time to let this conversation brew over the weekend. Now go direct to Facebook, an exclusive stream here. Really about how the different approaches people are taking into creating professional services in the live streaming broadcast industry. Marty, you're a perfect person to have on the show for this because you kind of serve most of these services yourself. You've been in the industry for a while. I think you had background in television.
Yes.
So I can't wait to start this conversation. I got my blackboard here so that I can keep us on track here. It's a little bit of a different show on Facebook. We're gonna kind of break it down. But so we've got 5 tips, 5 services. I think these are the 5 core services for the live streaming industry. And the first one is consulting. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've played in that space. I've seen a couple new people pop up. We talked about Eastern Shore Broadcasting. He does consulting. He does custom PC building. He really digs in with, I think he really participates in the church market. We talked about Live Streaming Pros, who seems to be new to the space, kind of just past couple months. They're really helping people start with the phones and really going for the consumer, that large consumer base. And then we talked about Enlightened Audiovisual, who's kind of taking it another step from the ProAV perspective, and they are helping people kind of go from their phone to something a little bit more professional using Wirecast. Tell us what you found in the consulting space at PodJam TV as the CEO there.
Yeah, a lot of our work is production services, live streaming, remote production. Many of our shows, when we do live, we do and I know that's kind of down on your list, but we do remote production services. We'll bring people in. It's very similar to what Enlightened Audiovisual does and some of these other services do. But we kind of take the pain out of it, right? So our clients like to kind of sit down, do their thing on camera, and then leave. And then we take care of all the front end, the back end, and all the middle, and make sure they're getting out to whatever platform or platforms that they want to get out, making sure that the recording's going well, taking care of all the technical stuff, coaching them through their session, so that all they have to do is concentrate on their actual content and being on camera. And if they're doing an interview, engaging with the person, and then we take care of everything else. Because when you're doing it for business, and I found this, a lot of people say it doesn't have to be perfect. I beg to differ. I think you do have to shoot for perfect. I can tell you, coming from the TV industry, that was our standard, perfect. And if it was anything less than that, you had some explaining to do, because that's just what it is. That's just how it is on the professional ranks. So that's what we try to do for our clients is just take the pain out of it for them, so they just concentrate on their actual content. A lot of them are not professional on camera, so they got enough to deal with as far as the nerves and just getting used to being on camera. But we take all the other pain out of it and make sure the production goes smoothly.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why it's such a huge market and it's such a huge opportunity, because people don't want to learn how to use Wirecast. Straight up. They don't want to learn it. They don't have time. And a lot of times, in the technology world and the technology budget, it's like an IT guy. He was trained to be a network administrator. he doesn't have time to learn how to do video production. So there's a lot of times the marketing department saying, hey, Joe, we want to do a live stream next week. They're like, okay, I wasn't trained in that. That's not why are you coming to me? And I have had that conversation many a times. And in the ProAV space, the professional integrator space, we work with these these IT managers a lot. And we know they're not broadcast engineers, yet they're being asked to because live streaming is becoming so popular.
I'll add this also. One of the things that I talk about a lot is there's 3 elements that I see in successful video production or live video production. That's the content, of course, the presentation on camera, and the production. And so like you're talking about, and the technical. I kind of include that in the production, but there's all the technical stuff. People always ask what camera you're using, what microphone. That's all very important. But then have to know how to use the tools. And I'm sure, Paul, you see as you're getting into this, how it's a lot more complicated than a lot of people let on to say. It's not a question that you can just buy a tool and magically you become a broadcaster. It's really knowing how to use that tool to its best degree, the best efficiency and most effectiveness. That's really the thing. I mean, you talk a lot about, software, and Wirecast is a great example, right? You just can't buy Wirecast, which is a very complex, very capable piece of software, high-end software that does video production, video switching, and expect out of the box to be a video producing pro. It takes time to learn, takes time to make sure everything, know how everything works. And then the other part of it, and one of the jobs I used to have, I used to be a wedding photographer, and it's the art and it's the knowledge of how to switch a show. My past, I worked 19 years at ESPN. I've been in control rooms. I've worked with directors, and directors, all they worry about, all they are concerned about is how the show flow looks. They have other people to do the actual technical switching. Mm-hmm. So they're looking at the artistic view, and that's another part of it, is how do you switch a show? How do you make it look good? How do you make it look like TV? And have a nice cadence and a nice flow. That takes practice, that takes skill. It's almost like a chef. You can buy a cookbook, but the true chef knows all the intricacies, knows all the skills, because it's years of training, years of practice. And then of course the content, which is obviously very, very important. And that's what our client is concerned about. So, a lot of these services, we take care of all the other stuff so the client can just worry about the content.
Yeah, so consulting is huge. I mean, that will never go away because this video production industry is highly complex. Now, Facebook and YouTube are letting people start streaming from their phone. That gets the entry of so many millions of people into this industry, interested in the industry. It's growing very fast. And that brings us to production services. Mm-hmm. So we've consulted with the potential customer. They've decided that they can't do it themselves. Right? Now, maybe some of them can, and we're going to talk later about installation services, putting in a permanent system for someone to just use over and over again. But right now, they've decided, we've done some consulting, we've decided, hey, it's fair, maybe at least for now, we're not going to be doing it on our own. We want to live stream, we like the audience. How do you approach your production services and execute on them? And we have an example, too, I can show.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. When I started out, like a lot of people started, I started out with a webcam, and a very simple setup. And one of my first actually paid production services was literally using Google Hangouts in a remote setting where I would just control the switching. Very, very rudimentary, very basic. And this was 4 or 5 years ago when I first started, when Google Hangouts first came out, and that's all that was. But as I've grown, I've gotten into different video switchers. And now my setup includes my primary switcher is a TriCaster Mini, which is a professional level video switcher. I have multiple PCs. I usually use Skype to bring in multiple. If I'm doing a 2-person interview, I bring 2 people on 2 different PCs. I have a mixer with multiple auxiliary sends to create mix minuses, all this technical stuff. But I've gotten to the point where I have like this mini professional remote controlled studio that not only can I do my own shows, but I can also bring people in and remote produce as well. So it's kind of growing with the industry. And the cool thing is for us video producers is that this kind of stuff, it wouldn't have been within my reach to even dream about having a business like this and doing the level of production that I do. The technology's come down where instead of being millions of dollars like you would expect at ESPN, now it's just thousands of dollars, which for a business owner, that's doable. That you can do. But it's been great in that respect. And I find the big challenge for me is explaining all the options that people have when they hire someone like me. Because I basically say, if you can envision it, I can put it together. And I do everything from very simple productions, then one person on camera, maybe with a simple lower third, to multiple people on camera with video roll-ins and graphics and all kinds of stuff, even post-production. So it's just that's my biggest challenge is explaining to them, basically I can do whatever you want. I just make sure that I'm in line with your vision, and that's where it's kind of gotten to.
Interesting. And I know a lot of customers, they only have 1 or 2 or 3 big events a year. So is it even worth it for them to think about all this video production software when they've only got a couple live events to produce anyway?
Yeah, I would say no. That's a great point, Paul. I would say no. I mean, that's something that you'd want to bring someone in. I'll give you an example. I mean, I just started to work with a company that people probably heard of, Pandora, online radio services. It's that music people, the streaming music service. I did an event with them. They needed someone to they were running Wirecast, and they were doing, I think you're showing it there. Yeah, it's a clip from my Twitter feed. I was brought in to help them with a John Legend stream in New York last month. And it went really well. It was a full-fledged multiple camera shoot. It was an hour-long showcase. But what we did was we took the first 2 songs and they want to stream it to Facebook, to John Legend's page and also the Pandora page. So it was basically a full crew there. And my role in it was to run and help them with the Wirecast part of it. We use Wirecast to stream. I had a director sitting right next to me calling the shots. We had, art directors there, every social team there. Everyone had a job. It reminded me very much of the old days of being in the ESPN control room where everyone had a single job. And it was great. In fact, we're working on some other projects yet to be announced, probably something in the spring, another streaming project as well. But Pandora is a good example where they realized that they need to do high quality video. They're not going to do it themselves. They don't have events all the time. So it makes sense for them to kind of bring other team members in on a per project basis. So that's kind of what I do with them. But that's a really good example of that. And you don't necessarily need a whole company team if you're just doing a few projects a year. It pays very much to bring in a professional to help you out. You're going to be much better. You don't have to worry about it. There's so many things that could go wrong, so it pays to bring someone in really and that's kind of what I do, really.
Yeah, and bring it back to the ProAV industry, who's our core customer, really, these resellers and integrators. And we just saw AVI-SPL, the largest AV company in the world, buy a video production company, VideoLink, to add these types of services to their portfolio. So it's the ProAV industry wants in on this, but can they specialize? Can they capitalize on the customers? Traditionally, what they found is they went in, they integrated conference rooms and boardrooms and custom technology projects, and then realized that sometimes their customers don't need a full installation and own the equipment, so they actually set up rentals. And literally, a lot of big AV companies had a whole separate division for events and rentals, and they just go in and they set up lights and cameras, but it's per event basis. But they never got into the video production. It was more like, we'll record this for you if you want. We'll show a camera feed on an in-room projector, but not actually record it. Now, I think that they really have to start thinking more about production. And one of the things that we're going to talk about next is remote production services. And it makes me think these huge, 100-person companies that go out and set up events all the time, all they have to do is set up a Skype call with their studio back at home. And now they've got the video and audio to do a full produced stream remotely. So let's talk about remote video production.
Yeah, it's interesting. IP is really the next internet protocol is really the next wave in video workflow. We talk about TriCaster, Wirecast, a lot of these the standard coming out, New Tech brought this out, NDI, network device interface. And it's a brand new standard that runs on IP. And basically the reason why it's so revolutionary is in the past, you used to have to use baseband connections, actual cable connections, either SDI or HDMI, or to connect up your video to a switcher. You run these long cable lengths. It's very complicated. But now everything's switching over to IP, meaning that a lot of people already have IP networks. An IP network, it could be just a wireless router in your home. You have your own computer network, your internet network. And most homes and businesses have networks already installed. What this means is that as long as the network can see your video and audio source, and you have a NDI or IP capable video switcher on the other end, the wiring becomes a lot less complicated, and you literally can take any source on the network, which is huge. So what that enables, like you're saying, Paul, you might go into a customer, and back in the day, it would be a full-fledged video conference installation. Now you're thinking about video production, right? And how they might want a corner of their conference room set up so that they can go live for an interview. And it might be just a show for the company, or it might be with a network. I mean, how many times have you seen CNN and these news networks now very comfortable going to someone on Skype, and they bring them in, and obviously they're using professional level Skype TX, but that's part of it now, and that's the reality right now.
In fact, I hope we're not making all this stuff seem too difficult, but it looks like Juliet Gayala on the chat room is saying, she thinks she's at the point where she would like to hire someone to produce her live shows, and she doesn't. It's too difficult for her to do. So she's asking, what kind of words would she search for to find someone who has a service to remotely to produce her video production?
PodJam TV.
PodJam TV.
But I would say this. I would say live video producer, remote live video producer. I mean, if they're going to search, Google, I mean, those would be good search terms. Certainty
video producer. And I don't want to make it feel like, because there's, I at one hand, I want to say, buy a PTZOptics camera, get Wirecast, you can do it. But on the other hand, like Marty's saying, I mean, if you really want to look super professional, you're going to have to put in a lot of time. Or if you want to skip all that, you're going to have to hire someone professional. So I think we talked about that, Marty. I want to show quickly you actually in Leipzig, Germany here, doing a remote video production. There's one of our cameras there. I believe you have Stephen Haywood, the Tech Buzz there.
Yes. Now, this was very interesting. So I was over in Leipzig, Germany in October to do a talk, and you'll see on the left-hand side there on the screen, Stephen Haywood. Now, what we did was I was in Germany, Stephen's in Pennsylvania, Mark, who's on the right-hand side of that crew, is in Connecticut, and we demonstrated how you can do a remote production. So I was using Skype on my end. Stephen was running the show, so he brought me in via Skype. He brought Mark in via Skype. He actually transmitted the whole show out on his feeds, on multiple feeds, and then including, we use a service called Big Gravity, both Stephen and myself. It's a paid CDN, and we actually embedded that feed on the conference website, so people looking for that could see what we were doing in real time. And then the other cool thing is we had a crowd there in Germany, and we had our presentation, and at the end we left room for questions, and then the audience was able to ask myself, Stephen, and Mark questions, and they actually saw how we put a show together. So when we do the Tech Buzz shows, or when I do my show, that's exactly how we're doing it. So we want to give people an inside look at how we do these remote productions. So it was really cool how we pulled it off. I mean, we were in different continents, and that shows the power of IP. And like you're talking about, Paul, a Skype installation, maybe in a conference room, and I used the PTZ, I have it right here, PTZ camera, which was phenomenal and that's a great use case. I know we talked about it Friday, but I also, long in that conference, I streamed a couple of the other sessions for the conference organizer, and I had 2 cameras, and you're showing it right there. I had 2 cameras, and I had the remote control there. And what I was able to do was, it was not a terribly large, it was large enough, but I had to put the camera off to the side. And so that would make it very difficult to get a really good shot if I didn't have the pan tilt zoom capability. And what I was able to do was get close-ups, and lock off like 4 different shots, and literally switch to them depending on where people were on the stage, and it performed beautifully. I mean, it was perfect for that. It almost seemed like I had 5 cameras. I mean, it was really
well,
really
that's
good.
the goal, especially if you have 2, because
Yes.
then you can get 100 viewpoints. So we talked about consulting, Eastern Shore Broadcasting, live streaming pros, PodJam TV, production services. We've seen PodJam TV does this, also Enlightened Audio Visual. This remote video production, if for the ProAV guys out there, I think it's a huge opportunity to add video production to your services and not have to fly out to go help these people. You can ship them a PTZOptics camera, a computer, and literally connect it via Skype and produce the broadcast from your office. I mean, it's that easy. You're seeing here's USA. This is where Stephen Haywood is using Wirecast. Skype connecting to Germany. I know this is a very layman's term, but that's
I like that
much,
diagram, Paul. That's very good.
pretty much what you can do. Okay, guys.
Yes.
So you don't have to fly out to these places. And you guys weren't even doing camera control, Marty, which next time you go to Germany, I want Steven to be controlling the camera from America.
Yes.
It's possible. So number 4 is actual installation services. And this is the bread and butter of professional audiovisual integration companies. This is how they make their living. Most products have been commoditized. You're not making any money off the products you're selling. Normally, you're making the money off of the services, the integration, the installation services. What they're missing is they're not putting together, here is your fully installed video production room, right? Because we can do it now with a PTZOptics and Wirecast in the computer or Wirecast gear. We're putting and this is something that VideoLink, I think that's why AVI SPL bought them. They put together packages. I'm gonna go to this in a moment here. They basically put together packages for people to just buy and have installed in their room, and they did a really great job at allowing people the ability to just say, hey, I'd like video production system A for $8,000 installed in my room. So that's another way of monetizing this new live streaming and broadcast system.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I think they're getting into the production services area. And also, this is really good news, not only for integrators, but video producers, new ways to work together. There are going to be different levels of people that want to get into live streaming videos. So like you said, Paul, I mean, that's an excellent use case for traditional video conference equipment. So you put a PTZ camera in the room, you put a good quality video conference microphone system in the room, you maybe have a projector in there, and all of a sudden you have a full-fledged remote production studio. And whether they go live themselves or use it as a way to transmit maybe to their video producer's studio, like for myself, in my situation, I would maybe have a client set up with something like that and then have them stream to me via a video like Skype or Zoom or one of those video services, and bring them in and then switch the show and then actually manage the stream out.
Yeah.
But what that does for the client is gives them a fully functioning studio setup where it's dedicated, where they can go and they're ready to go on air at any moment. And that also includes, if they're a big enough company, maybe they might need to go on with the more network level media. Maybe they have an interview on CNN or CNBC. At least they have a setup where they're going to be compliant with the network and they're going to be able to put their best foot forward, have the best look. I mean, so many times I see people get into this and they forget the content's great, but they forget that the presentation and the production value also means something, and it's gonna really say a lot about how they think about their company and what kind of image that they want to present. So I think guys like you, Paul, integrators, I think this is a real opportunity, to get people set up in that respect. So.
Yeah, and I mean, if you just look at their website here, they've obviously put a lot of work into this. So this ReadyCam, I believe, is they're using a Sony, by the way. I noticed that. But you could use the PTZOptics. And I think what they're saying here is that they will remotely control the camera for you. They will
There you go.
customize the studio for you. They will remotely manage the entire studio, not just via Skype, but also the whole rack of equipment is network integrated so that they can remotely manage the levels of your microphones. Here it is. Here's the Sony camera they're using. So maybe I need to talk to them about that. But they've got like 3 or 4 different options. And it's, it's not anything new, but the way that they put it together beautifully with case studies and everything was enough for the largest audiovisual integrator in the world, hundreds of millions dollar company, to say, we're going to acquire you. You save us the time, and you've already got the infrastructure in place. So, I mean, that shows you that the big guys are starting to say, we want in on this.
Yeah, I mean, because I think we talked about on Friday. I mean, traditional desktop video conferencing is browser based now. So, I remember back in the day when it would take a room full of equipment, very specialized equipment, special transmission lines. So you'd have to bring in T1 lines and all that kind of stuff, to do a video conference. And it was very cutting edge, even at that level. Now you open up your laptop, you open up Skype or Hangouts or Zoom, and you're on in 5 minutes on Wi-Fi. If you just want to do a quick video conference, you want to step it up. I mean, this, media creation, for these companies is becoming increasingly important. We see it with our clients. Everyone's realizing that you could be whatever company you are, whatever product or service you offer, but everyone's becoming a media company because that's how you market your product or service.
Mm-hmm.
Video, as we know, is the hot thing. And I know, again, being beyond the hotness of it and beyond the latest thing and all this shiny object stuff, you got to look at the long-term trends. And really, frankly, I mean, video is really the best way to communicate because it's the fullest way, right? Back in the day, you had a blog post, you had text, very one-dimensional. Video, you can see me, you can hear my inflections, you can see my expression. I can show you other things. I can show you cool PTZ cameras like this. You can't do that in a blog post live. You can answer questions. I mean, I think people are realizing this is where they have to be, but they also a little scared about, oh, what do I do? And there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So I think the marriage of integrators and producers, and there's a whole new market here that's developing. So it's really quite exciting, but businesses, they all need it. And we've seen it in our business. I mean, people are all aware that they need this stuff. So,
Yeah.
What the good news is, I think there's a lot of business out there, which is great for everybody involved. So,
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that for like some of this equipment, you could use it for video conferencing. You could literally, on the Wirecast gear with your cameras plugged into it, use that to just video conference a business meeting, and then take it the next day, use it to record marketing videos for YouTube, and then the next day use it to host a live stream. So it's like a multifaceted, highly valuable proposition. I mean, the value here is incredible. The last thing we have, and we've been going on for a while, is kits and packages. And what I mean by that is, I think it's okay for installations to be custom installation, custom consulting, custom all of this. But a lot of people, they'd like to just say, okay, I realize the value. I need it like this week. Like, I don't have time for like this long consultation process, and I don't have time for all this custom stuff. I want a tried and true system that you're 8 out of your 10 customers have already used and approved. So with Wirecast Gear, TriCaster Mini, but I think that in 2017 we're going to see people take this further. TriCaster Mini plus 2 cameras and a lighting kit.
Yep.
How do we put little packages that fit the majority of the needs of the customers together? And I think that VideoLink has somewhat of done that. Now, they're not going out there and saying, you need these 12 things, but they're saying, we've got the ReadyCam Video Studio. Give us a call. We take that base package and customize it for your needs. So I've seen it happen. It's there. But I think that I see that as a big growth strategy as well.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. I also think that there's a marriage here between services and equipment, right? So you mentioned a couple of examples there where you might buy a package of equipment, but with IP technology, you mentioned in the VideoLink example, that's what's possible. Now, not only can the camera be controlled or viewed and controlled remotely by a video producer in another state and maybe another continent, but also the entire brains of the operation, all the other pieces and components that go in the rack, all IP connected, and basically you can control the entire production remotely, so that all you have to do as a participant or as the client is maybe flip one switch. I'm sure the integrator, you put it all in one, flip one switch, you sit down here, it's all marked out, and then the video producer remotely takes it from there. I know the TriCaster example, just on a video switcher, that's with NDI, you can actually connect TriCasters together. You can do things over whatever distance you want, literally control the entire machine, the entire output. So that's kind of what Video Link is talking about, and that's what a lot, the partners, and a lot of that you can still offer the support. You put the installation there. I think a video integrator like yourselves, that's the magic ticket. That's the golden ticket, is the support, because people are going to get this equipment and they're, oh, what do I do next? But you go to with the right company, you can get the technical support, and then you get the production support. And it makes it very easy. And then if you're set up, it's funny you mentioned the packages, because I'm just getting into it ourselves, where we have clients where I'm literally sending clients specific pieces of equipment, whether they're microphones or webcams or different pieces, and just to up their production value and making sure they're set up. And I can do this. I can send it out to them, help them set it up. And then that way from their end, the video and audio coming back to me is high quality enough where I can actually do something with it and switch it and make a good show out of it. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned something that ProAV has kind of been a staple in, which is these Crestron touch panels. And it requires a custom programmer, but almost every professional AV company has one on staff. And I don't even have this plugged in, otherwise I'd show you. But basically, you can control these things from Crestron. It's a $1 billion company, Crestron Integration, $1 billion plus. They broke $1 billion like 3 years ago. And you can control the lights, you can control the shades, you can control the projector, you can control almost the cameras. I mean, everything can be controlled here. So, I mean, this is high end, obviously. But although these are getting cheaper, you can actually put the software on an iPad now. So, touch screen equals $500. You're really just paying for the custom integration and the processor. But you could go in here and just say, start live show, and it automatically dims the lights, closes the shades, tunes your camera. I mean, you could do a million things. You could start the live stream. It could initiate your Skype call. I mean, these things can do, it could change the temperature in the room to be 64 degrees because that's what you like. I mean, but this has been bread and butter for ProAV. They do this for conference rooms and boardrooms, turn the projector on, start the meeting kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, one button push. I mean, the market goes from the guy with the smartphone all the way up to the CEO who wants to broadcast to his 20,000 employees. So it's a huge market. Thank you so much for coming in. This was a really fun show. Exclusive on Facebook. I really think this was a great first exclusive live stream. Thanks so much for being a part of it. We're going to post this on YouTube later, so if you missed it, you can see it on YouTube. Marty, you've got a lot of great advice. I hope to have you on the show another time.
Excellent. Paul, my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Take care. Bye, everybody. And Monday, by the way. Still have to switch a few of my videos to reflect Monday. Okay, that wasn't bad. So we ended up getting